Hello everyone, welcome to another session of Daily News Decoded. We are here with 6 articles divided into 2 sections, one decoded, mainly focused on mains, and the other explained section, mainly focused on prelims. In our decoded session, or let's say section, we will be discussing 2 articles. First one is related to the appointments of vice chancellors and the status of higher education in India. The second will be related to basically the issue of Digital Data Protection Act and the rules. So there were many articles regarding the second topic, so we will be discussing in details, and in this explained section we have selected 4 articles you can see on your screen. Let's start with today's discussion. So the first article, the article relates to the change in the appointment method of vice chancellors in Indian universities and the issue of higher education that we have picked up because particularly the appointment of vice chancellor might not be important for mains, but we will be discussing overall higher education in India. I will be providing you a lot of data and facts, and I will be providing you a lot of issues and some government initiatives at the end of the discussion. So the issue first. The issue is basically that draft guidelines has been issued by UGC for the appointment of vice chancellors, and many people have come out with their criticism. If we look at the backdrop of this topic, then the backdrop is this only, that there have been draft guidelines. If we talk about relevance, then the relevance is for GS2 education. It is clearly mentioned in your GS2 syllabus. If we move ahead, the previous year questions will not find any question on vice chancellor, not that at least in my knowledge. So we will be coming back to these PYQs once we start discussing higher education. As of now, let me discuss the current news. So there have been 2 key provisions regarding the appointment. The very first provision is there is to be selected a select cum search committee. This committee will be recommending the appointment of vice chancellor. In this there are 3 members. One member is belonging to the visitor or the chancellor. He will be or she will be nominating it, and he or she will be acting as a chairperson. The second member is basically would be a nominee of UGC. The third member will be a nominee of the apex body of the university. So clearly you can see that university is sending only one person to this select cum search committee, while the government, particularly the central government, is sending 2 people. So the majority is with central government. So there has to be an issue with it. Now second provision is eligibility criteria. So they have dropped all the academic achievements as a requirement for appointment of vice chancellor. This is a good thing in a way, because strict academic achievements may not give you a best vice chancellor for any university, and dropping these eligibility criteria also will bring in a lot of human resource from outside the academics. For example, let's say somebody from industry can come and apply for the position of vice chancellor, and this will basically give us a chance to basically have people from wide spectrum of experience. Alright, so these were 2 provisions regarding appointment of vice chancellor, the new guidelines. Moving ahead, the reaction and concerns has been such that there are some criticism for this and there are some positives also. Our job is to study both of them. So if we look at state government's response, then we will see that there are many states, particularly the states which are being ruled by the opposition parties, they are against this change, as they say that this will be centralizing the method. So centralization is one of the issues which they argue against. For example, Punjab and Kerala, these 2 states, and Tamil Nadu also, they have registered their reservations. Second point is that many critics argue that it will be undermining the overall federal structure also, because education is has to be a area where everybody can cooperate and work, but the drastic change through which state government's role has been reduced has been flagged as a violation of the federal structure. So if the appointment basically changes and the appointment is done by the central government, it will give a lot of influence over the university's functions. The second people who are against this change is academic people. They are saying that appointment without academic background will be undermining the discipline in the university, because basically academics will favor an academic to lead a university, and this can be a little bit biased, but it is some criticism. The second criticism comes as a basically increasing the political influence in the appointment, affecting the autonomy and functioning of the university. As we have discussed, there are 2 members from the central government and 1 member from the university. So this will give a upper hand for central government, and this might lead to political appointments. This was happening already, but people are saying it will continue. The third one is saying that it is going against NEP. What is NEP? New Education Policy. When did it come out? It come out in 2020. So government came up with a new education policy in 2020 that has a provision which says that universities or colleges should be given autonomy. But by changing the appointment of vice chancellor in a way that it favors central government, you are basically going against new education policy. This is some people are arguing. What positives we can see in this new method? We can see that it will be breaking the disciplinary silos in line with NEP. So NEP also says that there should not be any disciplinary silo. Silo meaning basically compartmentalization. You are creating certain groups that can only go to a certain place. So compartmentalization is being removed. That anybody from industries, from let's say public administration can come and join as a VC. It is a good thing. Secondly, it is saying that it will be opening gates for industry and public administrators, attracting better human resource. This is a good thing. Third thing positive, they are saying that it will allow the staff on contract to work with security. So the guideline basically are reducing the contract conditions. It is reducing the stringency of these contracts, and that will allow the contract worker or let's say contract teachers to work more freely. Fourth thing is it may lead to depoliticization also. It is a very counterintuitive thing to say that such an appointment method will lead to depoliticization. Think in this way. Right now state governments are involved. So all governments are somewhat politicized, or let's say they are political entities. So whether it is central government or whether it is state government, who is closer to the state politics? This is state government is closer to state politics. So state politics comes into the university because state government has better hand at appointment. Now union government has better hand, but union government is a little far away relatively to the politics. So it might lead to basically depoliticization because the whole university area will be depoliticized. Alright, it will be seen in future how it happens, but somebody is arguing. If we move ahead, then a little bit on UGC you should know. This can be important for your prelims. So what is this organization and what it does? It is basically a statutory organization created by the Parliament through an act. It comes under Ministry of Education and it was created in 1956. All these facts are important. You should remember. What is its mandate? Its mandate is very logical to understand. It is basically setting the standards for teaching, research and examination in universities. Secondly, it is basically it is providing grants to universities and colleges. Third thing, it is advising the central and state governments on higher education, because this body goes out and research, or let's say find out what are the developments in higher education, and the central and state government go to it for any advice and it provide better advice. It monitors development in higher education. As I said, it is looking after higher education. At the last, it is framing regulation on minimum standards of education. So it gives all the outcomes that should be coming out as a basic standard regarding higher education. So it is an important organization. It is situated in Delhi. It is called University Grant Commission, and all these facts are important if some question comes in prelims. Moving ahead, now we should go to the core topic of education, that is higher education. So the PYQ that we skipped, let us look at these PYQs. The first one says, it was asked in 2015, it says, the quality of higher education in India requires major improvements to make it internationally competitive. Do you think that the entry of foreign educational institution would help improve the quality of higher and technical education in the country. So at that time the development was that we were allowing foreign institution to come into India. So they asked the question whether it will impact the standard and competitiveness or not. So right now we are changing the administrative structure to appoint VC. How it can impact Indian higher education, that can be a question. Second question is related to new education policy. At that time it came, so the question came. So you should remember, whatever development takes place in GS2 particularly, the question, the probability of a question on that particular issue is very high. So the question came on an intention to restructure and reorient the education system in India. You will have to critically examine the statement. We will discuss a little bit about NEP on higher education. So let's go back to our previous slide, the slide on higher education. So first thing first, I will try to provide you a status quo based on AISER report. This is All India Survey on Higher Education report. Latest report which I could find was 21-22. So based on this report, we will be having we will be taking a stock take, or let's say we will be painting a picture on India's higher education. So if you look at, we have around 1168, that is 1168 number of universities. We have around 45,000 colleges. We have 12,000 independent standalone institutions. We have 4.33 crore students in higher education. We have 16 lakh, around 16 lakh, almost 16 lakh teachers. Going further, our enrollment ratio, that is gross enrollment ratio, is 28.4. Let me give you a brief about GER. So GER is a statistical term, let's say a term used to denote how many people took admission in a particular age. So in India, higher education, regarding higher education, we have the age limit of 18 to 23 years. So what they do is, they see in between age 18 to 23 how many people coming out of school took admission in higher education or in colleges. So that is around 28%. You can say in this way, by saying 28%, you should understand this, that out of 100 people from the school, only 28 go to college for higher education. For a perspective, this is 88 in USA. So almost 88 people go to college between certain age in USA, almost 88%. In China, it is around 50%. Alright. So this is regarding the latest AISHE report painting the picture of India's higher education. Further, if we go in detail on universities, then I will give you certain points. This we have discussed. Now see, 17 universities, of which 14 are state public universities, and 4,470 colleges are exclusively for women. This is a good data. For women, we have around 17 universities exclusively. Alright, and around 4,000 colleges exclusively for women. Further, you read, government universities are basically constituting around 58% of total universities. More than half are government universities, and around 80% enrollment is done in government universities. The private sector is only contributing around 26%, but it is a large number, 26% people enrolling in the private institutions. So this is about universities. Let us look at the data for students, about students and different stages in the higher education. So we will look at this very quickly. So total higher education enrollment is around 4.3 crore. College में student 4.3 crore है. It is an increased by 91 lakh since 2015. So around 1 crore improvement from 1415. Female enrollment increased by 50 lakh. It is around 2 crore. The gross enrollment ratio improved from 23% to 28%. This is a good sign that more people are enrolling in college. Gender parity index, it is very important. It is above 1 since 2017 and 18. So gender parity index basically measures the female candidates in colleges over the male candidates. So this has been greater than 1, meaning there have been more female candidates admitting in higher education than male candidates. But if you look into detail, then you will find some troubling ideas. Like for example, STEM. In STEM, this will not be greater than 1. Okay. So basically, the idea of degree, acquiring a degree, is very popular. That's why this higher education admission of female has been improving. There has to be a detailed analysis over it. We will do it sometime. But as of now, you remember, it has been above 1 since 2017 and 18. Enrollment distribution, if you look at, around 80% enrollment is in undergrad and 12% in postgrad. The top UG discipline, the undergrad discipline, top has been arts, then science, then commerce, and then engineering and technology. So still people are preferring art. If somebody says otherwise, you argue that in the AISER report, I have seen that around 37% of all UG admissions are basically from art. PhD enrollment, if you talk about, it is 2.12 lakh from 1.17 lakh in 2014-15, increase of 81%. So we are having more PhDs, we are having more engineers, we are having more PhDs. Female PhD enrollment has been around 1 lakh. It is also an increase yearly 10%, and it has almost doubled since 2014-15. So this is data on higher education from AISER report. What is this new education policy 2020 talks about on higher education? Let me discuss a little bit about it. So it tries to target 50% of GER, that is gross enrollment ratio, by 2035. It is also restructuring the method of study into multidisciplinary approach. So if you take admission into a course, for example, you take admission into an engineering institution to study chemical engineering, the new education policy will bring you an option to enroll, or let's say at least study, all subjects that is available in that college. This way you will choose the subject of your interest. You will not be confined to your own engineering branch. This is a good approach. So it will bring in flexible curriculum. It will be a multidisciplinary approach, and it will also have multiple entry and exit point, and you will be getting academic credits. So I have done, let's say, engineering in 2012 to 2014. For 2 years I have studied and I got some academic credit out of it. I have been given a advanced diploma for 2 years. In 1 year I would have gotten diploma. In 2 years I will get advanced diploma. I will have some credit in my national credit bank. Later on, if I want to complete my engineering, I can go back and continue my credits. That will give you a lot of flexibility, because many people do not have funds to study for 4 years. They want to work before they study, or they get job. In 2 years, they might have gotten a job in, let's say, in some trade. So they want to go. So that way, they can exit and enter at multiple points, and they will have credits also. This is NEP 2020 talking about higher education. Further, it talks about of a single regulatory body. It is naming it Higher Education Commission of India in place of all these AICTE, UGC, NTCE, all these various organizations working in a particular area. They will be subsumed into one, that is Higher Education Commission of India, except medical and legal education. Secondly, it is focusing on research. It is trying to establish a national research foundation that will be looking after the whole research and development scenario of India. It is also advocating for gradual autonomy to different universities and colleges. Moving ahead, what are the different issues that higher education is facing in India? We will discuss these issues, a lot of issues. We will go it very quickly through it. So you all know that we are struggling with quality of education. Why we are struggling with quality of education? You should know 2-3 terms about it. So we have variability in standards. Center and state colleges differ. Then IIT, IIMs and center colleges differ. There is a whole spectrum of difference. If you enroll in state institution, you will have a different education. In IITs, you will have a global level education. So we have a variability in standards. Then we have outdated curriculum. We have not updated them. Regarding these curriculum, we have not updated with the standards of the industry. Further, we lack accreditation. Accreditation, what it does, it basically ensures the quality of infrastructure, labs and other tools. They are better if you are accredited higherly. Alright, it's a very tongue twister. accreditation. All right. Second, low gross enrollment ratio. What is this? We have only 28.7%, which I talked about earlier. The USA, the United States of America, has around 88%. So all students that come out from school at a particular age, between a particular age, going to college is around 88 for USA. For us, it is around 28. So see the difference. For China, it is around 49%, 49.7%. We have a brain drain issue. So foreign students studying in India is around 50,000. But Indian students studying outside is around 10 lakh, 1 million. So the huge gap is there. Why it is so? Because we don't have higher education institution of that great quality. And also outside the quality is much better. So people prefer, the rich and affluent prefer to go out and study. And many few people, mostly African, come and study in India. Now, faculty challenges, we have faculty challenges. We have shortage of qualified faculty. Around 40%, 30 to 40% positions are vacant, and 40%, around 40% are working on ad hoc. So you can understand that so many vacancies are there, and mostly staff, 40% staff is working on ad hocism. It's a very surprising. And then there is a, so I will write 40% vacant and 40% are ad hocs. Okay. Ad hocs. They lack training. So once you become a professor, majority of them do not go the professional training timely. There is no provision for it also. There is no requirement for it also. There is no exam for it also. So we can see there is a lack of training. Then lack of female leadership. So we have only 7% female vice chancellors. Only 7%. It's a major issue. We should have at least 20 to 30%, 40% participation from women at leadership role. So this is an issue. Now privatization, commercialization, we all talk about it. So number of private institutions, if you look at, it has improved from 276 in 2015-16 to 407 in 2019-20. AISHE report says this. So we have almost double private institutions. So privatization taking place. Why it is an issue? Because private institutions mainly focus on profits, not quality education. That's why everybody wants to go into a government college. But private institution, if they come out, so many private institutions are being created because there is a lot of demand and the availability is not there. So privatization is taking place. On top of it, students are suffering from high costs and exploitation. You have seen recently the fees for IIT IIMs also improved. Okay, so this is also an issue. Further, if we talk about, we have low public spending. Only 3.1% of GDP we are spending on higher education, while we are targeting around 6% in NEP. Research and innovation. So we have many issues with research and innovations, including we have a low spending on research and innovation. Only 0.7% of GDP we are investing on R&D, while developed nations spend 2.5%. That's why they are developed. We are only spending 0.7%. That results in low research output. We have a lot of research papers being published, but they lack quality. So we have low research output. Further, we have very limited industry-academia collaboration. The academia is not connected with industry at the level which it should have been. So what will happen? The people who are doing research, they are doing research out of the blue. Majority of them. The industry is not requiring that research. So low research output comes out. Access and equity, if you talk about, so there are geographical disparities when it comes to north-south divide, when it comes to rural-urban divide, both exist. In rural areas, there are no higher education institution of any name, of worthy name. Only cities have higher education institutions that are of some name, IITs, IIMs or some state colleges. There is gender gap. We have seen that gender parity index is greater than 1 since 2017-18. But the gender parity gap index does not tell you about the quality of admissions. So you have seen in state universities, there is a lot of, let's say, enrollment by women or let's say female candidates. But for what courses they are enrolling? For what purpose they are enrolling? They are enrolling majorly to get a degree out of it. Because right now the criteria for certain things have changed. You require a degree to appear for an exam. So you try to get the degree. So this Gender gap does not tell you about the quality of enrollment, the outcome in terms of female education attainment. It does not tell about. Secondly, if we look at marginalized communities, the SC and ST students GER is further low. It is around 23% and 18% respectively. For SCs it is 23%, for STs it is 18%, against the national average of 28%. But if you bring out the data of the well-to-do classes and castes, then you will see the huge gap in this GER, because you can extrapolate that SCs and STs only having around 23% GER, OBCs will have some GER, but the smaller population, that is the affluent population, will have a greater GER. Alright. So, this is about the marginalized community. Further, there is a digital divide. So, some people have access to technology and the devices, some people don't. Further, regulatory and administrative issues are there. You all understand. There is autonomy issue, and then there is funding issue, or let's say allocation of funding issue. So, even funds are allocated, these funds comes out through a lot of corruption. A lot of things are basically utilized before they have been utilized for education. So, all these issues are there when it comes to higher education in India. I have provided you a lot of facts and data to support your argument. Now, let us see some government initiative to resolve these issues. We will see some n number of government initiatives one by one. So, new education policy is trying to restructure the whole education system, administrative system, education system, higher education, primary education. It is trying to change the way education is imparted. When it comes to primary education, it is trying to change into do away with the mugging up of things. It is trying to introduce exam-less, fearless education. In higher education, it is trying to introduce multidisciplinary, flexible syllabus kind of education. So, new education policy overall tries to restructure the higher education in the education sector in India regarding so and so things. So, this is one of the greatest initiative. Further, we have Rashtriya Uchtar Shiksha Abhiyan, RUSA. This initiative is particularly focused on state universities. It is trying to build infrastructure, give funds for state universities, because we have seen there is a gap between center and state university, IITs and state universities. So, this is trying to fill that gap. Now, there is Imprint. This Imprint initiative is particularly focused on the engineering and technical education led by IITs and ISC, impacting research, innovation and technology. Further, there is GIAN. So, we have so many universities. We have different labs in different universities. We have different equipments in different universities. We have different research papers and let's say papers available in different universities. So, we are trying to connect these universities so that we can share these things. For example, you can send a sample, you can get the data from other university if they are connected well. So, GIAN is basically global initiative of academic networks. Next is institution of eminence. We are trying to create certain institutions that are of global standards. Private and public both. They will be given more autonomy, and these institutions will try to change this brain drain majorly, and they will also provide you better research. They will provide you a better connection with academia. They will become the better case studies in India so that others can copy. That's the idea. Now, Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, this is nothing but connecting the higher education institutions with, guessed it, the gaon, the rural area. So, we can achieve sustainable development goals. These institutions can take up villages and they can go there and work with the village people and develop the village in a better manner. Gender advancement for transforming institutions. We are trying to transform institutions through gender advancement. Gati. This is very self-explanatory for women education, for their representation in the leadership. We have seen that only 7% female representation is there as the position of VC. Kaushal Kendras are there for skill development, and HEFA, this is important. HEFA is basically an agency that provides nothing but funds to institutions based on their performance and attainment. It also tries to see the auditing report. Based on that, this will provide layered funding, that if you achieve this much, we will give you this much fund. If you achieve this much, we will give you more funds. So, performance based funding and criteria for a basic funding is driven by HEFA. So far we have discussed the higher education, we have discussed the issue with Vice Chancellor, we have discussed the UGC. Now read this question and try to answer it. The question says, in the backdrop of the recent changes suggested in the appointment of Vice Chancellor of the universities, discuss the issues pertaining in the prevailing in the higher education sector in India. Also, what initiative government has taken and how they have been effective. You can discuss this in 250 words. Take 15. It will be of 15 marks. Let us jump to the next article. So the next article relates to the data protection rules. The act, that is Digital Data Protection Act, came in 2023 and the rules came this year. These are not exact rules, these are draft rules. They are not implemented fully now, and the government has asked everyone to give their opinion. So this concept, or let's say this article, this topic particularly, we discussed in our first episode of Daily News Decoded. It came out on Monday, last Monday, not this Monday, last Monday. And around at timestamp of 4 minutes, you can watch the whole discussion over Data Protection Act. I have discussed in detail that act. I have also discussed these rules. But today we have seen so many articles, at least 4 I found, came up in the newspaper. So I thought, why not discuss these articles, and whatever they are telling, they are not telling much different because many things are repeated in each other. And related to your exam, the positive and negatives are very important. That on what grounds, how these data protection rules are positive, and on what grounds they are looking like a negative. So these 4 articles I have pasted on this screen, and I have tried to prepare a summary out of them for your exam perspective. Okay, it may not be exhaustive, but it is what you can use in your exam. Okay, so these articles all talk about basically they criticize these data protection rules on various grounds, like there is no clarity. On the one hand, government is saying that these rules are published in a very simplified manner, but that is also a contention, because too much simplicity sometimes is a garb of discretion. Basically, if you say something in very simple terms, when somebody goes against it, you can argue by bringing a little complexity. So it is also a contention. If you look at the backdrop, this comes under this news that rules have been released. Relevance, GS2, it is highly relevant in GS2. Your fundamental rights, right to privacy. So basically your fundamental right topic will also come here. Governance will come here, because all these organizations will come up, these data protection board will come up, so governance, it will be there. Okay, moving ahead, I have prepared this summary in the form of a table. So we will discuss each and every point very nicely. So on these factors, I have allocated positive and negative things. So for example, on user rights, these rules positively say that they are limiting the data entities to collect your data or to process it illegally or unlawfully. They have to declare what they are collecting, they have to take your consent. So on the one hand, they are basically limiting the data entities and giving you rights also. Right to correct, erase, withdraw, consent, all these rights are provided. They will take your consent, they will take your child's consent. Without consent, it cannot be done. But on the other hand, these rules are vague and are not telling clearly how you can exercise these rights. One of the writers argue that these consent mechanism, in which somebody is asked for consent before data is collected, are practiced in the medical sector. So for example, if you are going for a surgery, the doctor will ask you for consent, but the writer is saying that consent on each and every aspect will be a troublesome thing for the companies. Because let's say you are going to a mall and they want your name, or let's say they want to use your some data they want to use, and they will ask you for consent. Every place you will go, unless you provide consent, they cannot access your data or process your data. That will make business very difficult. I get that privacy is very important for everyone, but a business friendly environment is required. So there has to be a balance, there has to be a clarity over how consent, where consent is required. There is great approach told by these writers. They say sectoral based approach. For example, each and every sector should have different consent, different let's say mechanism for different aspects. We will see how RBI has utilized this sectoral approach. So secondly, the negative part about user right is the right to erasure. So right to erasure is very difficult. For example, recent judgments, it came up, and many judgments, high courts and other courts have directed Google to remove certain links, or let's say erase those links, but it has been very difficult. So these draft rules are also very vague and silent about right to erasure. Second factor, we can look at child protection measures. So this act is very stringent on child protection measures. It imposes a lot of penalty if let's say data of children is utilized for purposes which is not allowed. So citizens below the age of 18 are basically kept outside the purview of data processing. You cannot process their data and you cannot target them. Basically, you cannot show ads to them. So if you violate it, then you will be punished. I have discussed all these things in the previous video. You can go back and watch. So it is balancing, on a good part, it is balancing safeguarding children while fostering innovation in education. So it is giving exemption to education sector, school sector, to process this data. But it is also being very basically stringent about monitoring and tracking activities over the children. So the TikTok thing will not work now. You cannot monitor children and process their data. But it is not again providing detailed mechanism for verifying parental consent and identifying children online. So it is saying that below 18 years it is a children, but who are their parent, who are their guardian, how you are going to verify over a website, or let's say on YouTube, how you are going to verify whose parent. Anybody can lie. The children will lie about their age also. If somebody is asked whether you are 18 or not, they will click I am 18, then no consent is required. So there is no mechanism basically provided. So that is an issue. So consent for children mechanism is not provided. Data localization, this is a big issue. There was a simple article, separate article on data localization that certain Indian companies have come up with their own initiative. So when it comes to data localization, these rules are not clear how this data protection board will be established, because data protection board will be looking at all these data breaches. So it is not clear how it will be established. Then basically this is on the negative side. Basically on the more point on negative side, should have opted sectoral localization instead of sweeping measures, example RBI's requirement. Let me explain this very clearly. So data localization, RBI has already mandated that all the data related to payment should be on Indian land. So this should have been opted by these rules, that for example certain sensitive sectors should have data localization or data processing in India only. Outside should have been allowed. Right now what is happening, if there are certain let's say big companies, they have to basically put data locally. So that is a challenge. Still there is a issue. This centralized system for accessing international data is still an issue, because these draft rules are not discussing it. So what it mean by this term? It means, for example, our law enforcement officers, if they need data from somebody, or let's say data from a company whose storages are outside, they struggle to it. Like for example X, or let's say Twitter, if somebody is asking data from them, they will not be providing it. So this is still not resolved because there is no clear-cut policy on data localization. Further, if we move approach and institutions. So what is the approach of our data protection rules? Our approach is very pragmatic. Why? It is balancing innovation, education, health and personal right, both. So it is giving enough scope and flexibility for the business sector, and it is also providing a lot of rights to the end user. So this balance is putting them in a pragmatic side. If you talk about negative about it, then many provisions are left intentionally vague. For example, Rule 3 says that the consent should be clear and plain language. The consent should be written or transferred to the user in a clear and plain language. So while you will be signing up for a website, you will be given a consent form. That should be in clear language, but it is not clear what clear and plain language means. It can be anything. Anybody can interpret anything by clean and plain language. So there is no definition for these terms. Further, it says that the DPB lacks independence. So how it lacks independence, we will look at in the next slide. It basically lacks independence because number one, the appointment is done by the cabinet secretary. A committee will select it and recommend it, and the chairman is basically cabinet secretary. So people are saying that if cabinet secretary is involved in selection, then there is a question on independence. Secondly, the service conditions. Service conditions are such that they can remain in office for 2 years and they can be reappointed. So this is a recipe for collusion basically. So there is an issue of service conditions. Then determining data breaches. Its jurisdiction is very limited when it comes to determining data breaches. It will basically put these organizations to inform data breaches. It cannot do anything because this whole act and rules are not penalized. There is no criminal proceeding regarding data breaches and anything. So it is very limited. This data protection board, even if it is established, it is very limited body. It is not very powerful body. And further, on the negative side only, it says that it lacks transparency and public participation. So during these formation of this act and these rules, there has been an issue of transparency. Everything is not shared with the people. Now exemptions and costs, this was another dimension which they were discussing. They were saying that healthcare, education and critical sectors are given exemption. That is good because it will foster innovation, and a flexible approach has been adopted, meaning that certain sectors, the requirement is very different for certain sectors. For example, in EU, the GDPR basically did not have this flexible approach. Many issues have been flagged in these articles for GDPR, and GDPR is not seen as a golden standard which was seen earlier. It has encountered many problems, like it has made the consent issue very complex, and it has made the cookies issue, like there was so much consent over cookies, so it made the internet very clunky. So GDPR has been criticized, but our act has been put in a good light because it is very flexible. It is considering both sides of the story, the end user and the business also. Further, in the negative, it says the Rule 5, which exempts data processing for subsidies from consent requirement. Now take this scenario, the government of officials take up data for subsidy purposes, and later on you cannot do anything about it because it is exempted from this Data Protection Act. So this is a very big challenge. Further, it says that businesses can seek exemption and may impose excessive fees to erase your data, to correct your data, to do whatever with your data. So there is no clarity over what kind of fees will be required for all these data maneuvers. So all these things were there in these articles, and I don't know if you have read all these 4 articles, but this is what I found as a positive and negative of these rules. Basically, you should be very much aware about, because you are informed citizens, you should be aware about this ongoing data protection rule discussion, and you can frame a very understood or very informative opinion. So this is what we have discussed. Now try to write this question, use 250 words, and it will be for 15 marks. And earlier I have also given a question. I hope you must have written. So I would suggest you watch the Monday video, the last Monday, and you watch at 4 minutes. Alright, you will understand Data Protection Act, data protection rules, and many other dimensions. Alright, let's jump to the next article. Alright, so in explained section, let us discuss these 4 articles very quickly. These articles are mainly important for your prelims perspective. So we will take a look at on the article information, and we will do some value addition also. So the first article is regarding Mahakumbh, that is beginning today. I hope you guys are visiting there. and relevant to this topic will be GS1 Indian Art and Culture. And so the information is very basic, that Mahakumbh is beginning today. It is beginning at Prayagraj, earlier known as Allahabad. So a little bit background on Mahakumbh. So Mahakumbh is also known as Kumbh Mela. It basically comes under UNESCO's representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. It is one of the largest gathering of humans on surface of the earth. It can be seen from space also, a real thing that can be seen from space. And it is such a big event that even earlier Chinese travelers, they also mentioned about Kumbh Mela. So it is a great festival, and there is a mythology associated to this Mela. So if you all know, the churning of the ocean happened in the earlier time, in the ancient time. That is called Samudra Manthan. We call it Samudra Manthan. From this Samudra Manthan, many things appeared. One of the things that appeared was Amrit. Who brought it out? Dhanvantari. So Dhanvantari emerged with pitcher of Amrit, and this Amrit was taken by the Asuras. And then the son of Indra, Jayant, he went after Asuras and he caught the pitcher. While he was catching the pitcher, it got spilled at 4 places, that is Haridwar, Prayagraj, Ujjain and Nasik, that is Trimbakeswar. So at all these 4 places we have a Kumbh, Mahakumbh. So Kumbh Mela is hosted every 12 years at these 4 places. So little bit about the timing of the festival. It is determined by the celestial alignment of the moon, sun and Jupiter. Furthermore, Prayagraj and Haridwar also hold an Ardh Kumbh every 6 years. It is also an important information. And Purna Kumbh is known after if it is held after 12 years. So there is a little bit background about Kumbh. Moving ahead, it is important to know on which river Kumbh is basically hosted. So in this section we have place of Kumbh, in this section we have the river bank. So if we see Haridwar, it is hosted on Ganga river. In Prayagraj, it is on confluence of Ganga, Yamuna and mythological Saraswati. This year they have made a special arrangement for a stream to come, so that 3 rivers are seen as meeting. And in Ujjain on Sipra river, in Nasik on Godavari river. I will give you a homework that you tell me what are the tributaries of, let's say, Ganga, Yamuna and Godavari, and whose tributary is Shipra. Alright, you give me the answer in the comment section. Moving ahead, there is a term called Kalpavas. Kalpavas basically is nothing but people, just like Chhat Puja. In Chhat Puja, devotees, what they do, they spend entire time in and around water. And similarly in Kalpavas, devotees basically spend an entire month by the banks of holy river, primarily during the auspicious month of Magh of Hindu calendar. It is a journey of self-discovery, spiritual renewal and communal harmony. So Kalpavas is an important practice by devotees to spend a month around a holy river to self-discovery, for self-discovery. Now, the news has been that the Mahakumbh is starting by Shahi Snan. So, what is Shahi Snan? Shahi Snan is nothing but the Snan done by the sadhus of the akhadas. Basically, they start the Snan. So, taking a dip in the Ganga river is very auspicious. It is considered that it will wash away all your sins. So sadhus started first, and then we go and take a bath. So this is called Shahi Snan, and it is signifying ritualistic bathing in the holy river by holy men and the devotees in the water of the Ganga. The akhadas are the important term is the akhadas. Akhadas are nothing but certain spiritual organization that are representing the Hindu faith. Right? Nothing more than that. These akhadas are spiritual organizations. Moving ahead, recently you have heard Mahakumbh declared as a district. The area has been declared as a district. So obviously the Mela authority, or let's say Mela Adhikari, will have all the powers of a administrator of that district. So it is declared under section 2 of the Uttar Pradesh Prayag Mela Authority Prayagraj Act of 2017. It is important that you remember this. Moving ahead, there has been a greater use of technology to manage the large gathering at the Mela. So in GS3, it can be a question that use of technology in crowd control. So you can take an example of Kumbh Mela and you can cite all these technologies. So primarily they are using drones. One is tethered drone. It is basically a drone which is tethered via wire. For example, there is a drone, you put a wire on it, that wire is connected to a station and that drone can roam around basically and it can observe people. Then there is underwater drones, basically submarines. Underwater drones, they will go inside the water and they will manage everything. So these two kinds of drones are there. Then cameras are there, not normal cameras, they are with AI and they will try to preempt anything that is happening wrong in that area. Now cyber warrior desk is also there where people will be taking care of cyber security. And then Kumbh Sahayak AI chatbot is there. This chatbot will be providing real-time update and guidance to devotees in the Kumbh Mela 2025. So all these technologies has been used in management of Kumbh Mela. So after discussing this topic, jump to the practice question, read the question carefully and try to answer and submit your answer in the comment section. Let's see the next article. The next article is associated with drilling in Assam Gibbon sanctuary. So Gibbon is an animal, obvious to everyone. Gibbon is an animal and it has a sanctuary to it in Assam. And it is very important that you know a little bit about Gibbon more than the drilling part, because drilling is not going to happen and it is just an exploratory drilling and it will not be turned out into commercial drilling as of now, because government has put that condition already. But that Gibbon sanctuary will become important for your exam. So the backdrop will be that wildlife panel, Center's wildlife panel has approved exploratory, basically just to go there to see whether there is oil or not in the near the Gibbon wildlife sanctuary in Assam. Relevance is GS3 environment and ecology. Moving ahead, there is one organization that is in news in this news, that is National Board of Wildlife. It is important organization. You should know a little bit about this organization. We will discuss about this organization and its functions. So it is a statutory board, very important. Wildlife Protection Act 1972 establishes this board and it is a key organization when it comes to management of various protected areas. So the responsibility would be guiding the government's decision on matter related to wildlife conservation and issuing approval for projects in the protected areas. So I told earlier there are protected areas like wildlife sanctuary, national parks, biosphere reserves. There are many other elephant corridors. Then there are tiger reserves. There are many kinds of protected areas. So World National Board of Wildlife will be giving a lot of permissions regarding projects that are being associated around, not inside, around the protected areas. It is a 47-member committee. Remember, it is a big number. It is a 47-member committee headed by Prime Minister and the Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Environment Minister is a Vice Chairperson also. Now, what is the function of National Board of Wildlife? It can basically recommend setting up of national parks, very important, and other protected areas and on matters relating to restriction of activities in those areas. So आना जाना कौन करेगा, कौन बनाएगा नेशनल पार्क, कौन देखता है? नेशनल बोर्ड ऑफ वाइल्ड लाइफ. ओके. Further, it has special responsibilities with respect to tiger reserves, especially to ensure that no tiger reserve or areas linking different tiger reserves are diverted towards ecologically unsustainable use without approval. So tiger reserves के मामले में भी काफ़ी important है. No area can be diverted without its permission. National Board of Wildlife has the power to approve projects in and around national parks and sanctuaries. That's why it is approving the sanctuary, the given sanctuary. Now, no alteration of boundaries of the national park or wildlife sanctuary can be done without permission of NBL. So, you cannot change the boundary of the national park or a sanctuary. The Wildlife Protection Act mandates that without the approval of the board, reservation of tiger reserves, construction of tourist lodges, destruction, diversion of wildlife habitat cannot take place. Without its permission, you can literally do nothing or build nothing around a protected area. Also remember that boundaries cannot be changed without its recommendation. It is very important, so remember it carefully. Now, certain things about Huluk gibbon. So, gibbons are basically what? They are apes. Apes are very close relative to humans and they are apes. Only ape found in, it is very interesting, only ape found in India is Huluk gibbon. UPSC has already asked question. Now, it is the fastest, it is the fastest and the smallest. सबसे तेज, सबसे छोटा, smallest and fastest ape, and it is found in tropical and subtropical forest in the southeastern part of Asia. The Huluk gibbon is one of the 20 species of gibbon. Remember, there are 20 species of gibbon. Distribution is Southeast Asia like India, Myanmar, Bangladesh and southern China. In India, it is found in Assam, Meghalaya, Arunachal, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, south of Brahmaputra basically. So, Holonga Park Gibbon Sanctuary in Assam has the largest concentration of Huluk gibbon. Remember this, Holonga Park, H-O-double. So, remember Huluk gibbon, Holonga Park. So, both have common name. So, that way you can remember that this sanctuary has the largest concentration. Now, Eastern Huluk gibbon is vulnerable and Western Huluk gibbon is endangered. In what list? IUCN Red List. Alright, it is vulnerable and it is endangered. Moving ahead, there is a list of protected areas in Assam. So, these protected areas: Kaziranga, Manas, Dibru-Saikhowa, Nameri, Rajiv Gandhi, Orang National Park. Remember these with related relation to the state. Sometimes UPSC asks question on the name of the state. Wildlife sanctuaries, also remember wildlife sanctuary, they are important. So, try to read these wildlife sanctuaries, it is very important. Moving ahead, try to solve this question. It is a practice question given to you. Mark the correct answer, comment in the comment section what is the correct answer. The next article is related to a new study, how genes are made. It is very important article, it is very detailed article and very interesting article. So, if you understand what genes are, then you must be very curious how we get genes, how they are produced in our body. Are they produced already in our body? They are there from the start, from day one? No, it's not like that. And then how, if you understand a little bit, you will say that the mutation creates genes. But how this mutation happens? It's just saying that okay, gene mutate and new genes are created. But how? The whole process has been discovered. The whole process has been discovered. It is very important for us to understand this. So, the backdrop is studies shed new light on how genes are made. It will be related to GS3, Science and Technology. Moving ahead, we will discuss this article in detail. So, this article is talking about a lot of basics. So, if you look at, it is talking about genes, genome, non-identical twin and identical twins. It is also mentioning a term called zygote. So, I will explain all these things in a very simple manner. So, gene, you all know, gene is nothing but a smallest code, because we have codes. Every cell has codes. Codes for what? Creation of material, proteins, any other things. So, that code basically holds all the information that what to make, when to make. These are called genes. All these genes are basically bundled into larger similar kind of molecules, non-functional basically. For example, it will be a bundle of many genes. Some will be coding for some protein, some might not be coding for some protein. Basically, all kinds of genes are put together in a bundle. This whole bundle arranged nicely is called genome. This genome will have everything. everything regarding our cell, human cell or somebody else's cell. So this is genome, this is genome. This is clear. Now it is mentioning identical twin and non-identical twin. So basically, let's say the egg and sperm meet, and by mistake they create basically. Let me make some drawings. So let's say egg and sperm meet and they create one zygote. But if this zygote is if there is a creation of two zygotes, basically two differentiation takes place from one zygote and two babies are made, then they will be called identical twins. So these will have one zygote will be broken down into two and they will be called identical twins. Imagine at the time of fertilization, two zygotes are created at the first, not that first zygote is created, two different zygotes are created at the start. So these will have 50% similarity and they will be called as non-identical twins. How it happens, I cannot go into details, but remember, if two zygotes are created at the initial part, then it will be called non-identical. If one zygote is created and then breaks down into multiple babies, then it will be called identical twins. So identical twins will be almost similar, 100% similarity. Non-identical will be 50% similar. Now this is one basic thing that this basically article is mentioning. This article is further putting a question that how genes are made, and it is explaining different terms further. It is saying that we have something called chromosome. What is chromosome? It is very simple to understand, that we have so much genetic content that we cannot store it unless we have some mechanism to store it. Simple, understand this much simply, that you have a long rope and you want to put it in your house. So you cannot just dump the rope inside your house. What you will do, you will try to roll it. You will try to put let's say some wooden plank, and then you will roll that basically over that wooden plank. This is nothing but chromosome. So we have chromosomes. Chromosomes are nothing but packed DNA content. They have two copies of the same gene because one comes from mother, one comes from father. So there are chromosomes. Now they are asking that they are explaining that we have how many chromosomes? We have 1 to 22 chromosomes, and then we have one chromosome, sex chromosome pair, basically one sex chromosome pair, which is XX or XY for male, for female, and for male. Alright. So this is the basics that they are explaining, that we have chromosomes, we have 23 base pair, 23 pairs, and then 23rd is the sex chromosome. This article is further going that each molecule has strands. Basically they are saying that for example, base pairs are there, A, T, G, C. So there is a gene. That gene, if you zoom in, it will be ATGC, and it will be paired with the counter part, and this will be a double strand of DNA. This will be a double strand of DNA. Alright, and further they are saying this DNA, if translates, then it will become a mRNA. Basically it becomes an RNA. It tells others to make protein, messenger RNA. It becomes a messenger RNA, and then it will be transcription, basically translation. I should not say translation, it should be transcription. Okay, let me make it clear. So we have DNA becomes mRNA. The article is saying transcription will take place, and then mRNA to protein. This will be translation. Okay, so that's how protein are made. Okay, this is important to understand the article further. This is saying that these base pairs, cytosine and thymine, they sometimes get methylated and change into each other, and this methylation basically favors unmethylated basically does not favor mutation. This article is saying unmethylated does not favor mutation. So molecules is likelier than an unmethylated one to mutate and become a thymine molecule. So methylation is not favoring mutation. This article is further going, it is saying that how duplication takes place. So they are putting up a theory in the 1970s. A Japanese American biologist is putting a theory. It is saying that gene is duplicated because they have two copies. One is doing the function and the other is free to mutate. Alright, but there was a problem. Problem was that if this free gene is there, then how you can explain the protein overproduction? How you will basically explain that this protein is not getting overproduced? So another experiment is run. No need to go in detail. They basically did a research and they found out that a random gene is basically favored and it is methylated to protect it. So methylation helps it out. It basically gives enough time for a new gene to stay there without producing protein, so that protein is not generated in the body, because protein is very harmful. If unnecessary protein is generated, it is very harmful. So this article is saying that this randomization of gene is basically favoring mutation, and methylation is helping it out. Okay, methylation is helping out this gene duplication. Further, it is saying random sequence to incipient genes. This is that experiment which I explained, that they did experiment on some cells and they saw that a random introduction of a gene favored into evolution. And at the end of this article, the writer is saying that this has happened in evolutionary history also. So our blood groups A, B, O, all these are non-essential. Basically they are saying these proteins that we see in the blood groups, they are non-essential, but not all of them are equally non-essential. You cannot judge it because they exist in other brothers also, like apes, human cousins in the past evolution history. So they are saying that as of now we understand that genes are being made through gene duplication. You remember this much for prelims, that genes are made using gene duplication. Alright. Okay, so read this question, try to answer it. This question is on DNA and RNA. I hope that you find an answer. So mark the correct answer. We will jump into the last discussion. So the last article is related to Z-Morh Tunnel. This is an important tunnel. It has been inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi today only, and it comes in GS3, infrastructure and connectivity. Let us look at the important tunnels of the world. So there are certain tunnels which I thought that it should be important that you know. So in Switzerland there are tunnels. The longest tunnel, world longest 57-kilometer rail tunnel is in Switzerland, named Gotthard Base Tunnel. Then there is Channel Tunnel between France and Britain going under. It is around 37.9 kilometers. Then there is Lateral Tunnel in Orland, Norway. It is world longest road tunnel, around 24 kilometers. So all these tunnels are of different types. So when it comes to Switzerland, it is the longest rail tunnel. When it comes to the Channel Tunnel, it is undersea tunnel. Then this tunnel in Norway, it is a road tunnel. Then Tokyo Bay Aqua Line, this is the metro basically. It is around 14 kilometer total. Then Eisenhower Tunnel, Colorado, one of the world highest, located around 3,401 meters, highest tunnel. So it is important. This graphic shows all of the 4 tunnels in one photo. Moving ahead, important tunnels in India. There is Atal Tunnel. So connects Manali to Lahaul Spiti, Rohtang Pass, Pir Panjal Range. Then there is Pir Panjal Railway Tunnel in Jammu and Kashmir. There is Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Tunnel, India's longest road tunnel in Jammu and Kashmir. Cherupalli Rapuru Electrified Rail Tunnel. It is like a horseshoe tunnel, and it is longest electrified railway tunnel shaped like a horseshoe. Alright. Important tunnels in India. Further, Z-Morh Tunnel in Jammu and Kashmir, all-weather connectivity road tunnel between Srinagar and Kargil. Jojila Tunnel, Ladakh connects Sonmarg and Dras town in Kargil districts, around 14.2 kilometer road tunnel. All these information are important for your prelims. Try to remember them. Try to solve this question. It is very important. Try to match these basically options. And this is enough for today. We will meet again tomorrow. Thank you for watching.